Hello everyone, and welcome to the JetPatch demo overview. Let's begin. I'm going to go ahead and log in. And when you first log into the JetPatch platform, you're presented with the compliance dashboard. You can think of this as your 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 foot view of your overall compliance in your environment. You have some numbers here, you have some table information, you can do some filtering, you can download some reports. But what I think is important is, how do you get to this point? And when you peel back the layer and look under the hood, in a matter of clicks, you can add relevant discovery sources such as AWS, Azure, Active Directory, vCenter, and more. And once you input that information, all of the assets in those environments automatically are populated into our data lake. From here, you can automatically or manually deploy our connector, which gives you access to all of our patch management functionality. In addition to that, we also have an additional module, Agent Management, as you can see here, but we'll focus the majority of this demo on the patch management side. Once you have your platform configured, you'd like to know, hey, are my endpoints ready to patch? And that brings us to a feature we call Endpoint Readiness. What is Endpoint Readiness? You can think of it as a series of tests that run on each endpoint to determine whether or not the endpoint is ready to go. We have several tests both on the Windows, Linux, and Unix side. And you can see here you get a snapshot of your readiness overall. And of course, you can apply various filters and apply the necessary settings to customize for your environments. For today, if we just look at certain groups, like Group B and Group C, you'll see that we're 100% ready to go. After that, you want to know your compliance data at a more granular level. Over here in the Endpoints Management tab, you get exactly that. I have all my various operating systems here in this table. I get a clear indicator of what's installed, what's yet to be installed, which then results in what we call a standard compliance calculation. Now, with custom compliance, I actually have the capability to determine what my compliance should be at an endpoint or group of endpoint level. For example, maybe I have some Red Hat servers that are not supposed to get a kernel update. I can then customize my compliance so that I'm ignoring those patches only for the specified or tagged machines of my choice. In addition to that, here you actually get data correlation in regards to vulnerability scan integrations. We integrate with all the major players, such as Rapid7 Nextpost, Qualys, Tenable, Nessus, and so forth. But you can also bring your own customized report, or with our custom parser, any report from any other vulnerability provider. Now, in addition to kind of seeing your data at this granular level, we also have insights that really help you understand what's going on in your environment and allows you to focus on what you should act on first. If I go back to the dashboard section, there's a second tab here called Insights. If I drill into Insights, I'm presented with various data analytics here that tell me information based off of patches compliance or by age or by groups, so on and so forth. I can click into these different insights and I'm presented with different graphs. I can download these as PDFs. I can do additional filtering. But what I think is important is this section down here, how to improve. I can create a custom compliance rule, as mentioned earlier, if these are not relevant for these endpoints, or I can automatically remediate these with an automatic remediation plan here. In addition to these insights, you probably want to understand what are your available and installed patches in your environment. if I go back over here to Patches Catalog, I get to see all of that information across all of my operating systems. You'll see I have plenty of filtering options here, and even more so on the side. And I can really drill down to kind of see the kind of, let's say, patch bundles that I can create. Once you have a patch bundle that you like, you can actually save it. You have all these save filters here. For example, maybe I want to look at all critical patches that are more than 10 days old. I get exactly that. And by creating these save filters, I unlock two pieces of functionality. That custom compliance, which I've talked about twice already. But in addition to that, I'm able to create what we call automatic remediation plans. What are automatic remediation plans? Well, if I bring us over here to the remediation plan section, I am presented with my remediation plan storyboard. You can see I have different plans going from left to right. And within these plans, I have different details. But I want to focus on this top left icon. You see here, this is a little person icon, meaning it was created manually by a person via the Patches catalog. But for the automatic plans, it's generated with a hashtag. And essentially what it's doing is it's taking the save filter and it's being executed on based off of a policy rule. These policy rules can be managed here and can be repeated weekly, daily, every 10 days, monthly, whatever makes sense for that particular plan. Let's take that example I mentioned before. Critical and more than 10 days old. I have that here enabled every 10 days. I can take the automation a step further. In addition to automatically creating plan, also automatically activating the plan. What does that mean? Essentially, what that means is that it will create the plan, activate the plan, and it will wait until the defined maintenance schedule assigned for that endpoints. So if my endpoints are supposed to be patched the Saturday after Patch Tuesday, the plan will automatically create it, automatically activate, and then it will just wait until the defined maintenance schedule for individual endpoints. Of course, if you're integrated with an ITSM, such as ServiceNow, Jira, Symphony Summit, in that case, it will then go through your normal approvers process on the ITSM side, and then wait for the maintenance schedule. I'll talk a little bit more about the ITSM integration in just a bit. Now, before we go ahead and apply some patches in the environment, we want to make sure that there's no other obvious issues that we would encounter before our patch cycle. And that brings us to predictive patching. What is predictive patching? Essentially, you can think of it as a mechanism that's constantly running in the environment and is providing you information that can basically say, hey, for these endpoints, patching will not work, and these are the reasons why. So it gives me that information. I can drill down. I can see how to improve. I can go ahead and fix those problems. But for today, let's go ahead and run the report again, simply on Group B, the group that we will patch with. Here, I feel confident I'll be 100% successful. So let's do some patching. I'm going to go into the Patches catalog. I'm going to filter on Group B. I'm going to select the first couple patches and create a plan. I'm going to call this Group B Test Patching. Optional description. I have some SLA start and end dates. This is primarily for reporting purposes. You're allowed to override that. So if you have a 30-day SLA, that's great. 14-day, whatever your SLA is, you can configure it to make sure that you have the appropriate SLA reporting for your environments. I also have the option to create an emergency plan, which is very useful for 0 days. So for example, if a 0-day patch comes in and you need to override the normal maintenance schedule, you can easily do that with our platform. Here I can review the plan. I can edit it. I can add more, remove. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and select all and bulk install. Of course, if after I install the patches I need to do a rollback, it's very easy for me to copy the plan and then remove it instead of installing it. Continuing on, I can then review all the applicable groups. I want to stick with group B and go ahead and activate the plan. So what's going on here? As mentioned before, this is a little storyboard, and it's going from left to right. And now it's pending. In this case, it's pending approval from the ITSM. And what's happening then is basically it's creating the ticket in the ITSM. In this environment, it's integrated with ServiceNow. And then in ServiceNow, it will follow the appropriate workflow. And once it's approved, it will then tell JetPatch, hey, it's ready to go. Before I kind of show you what that looks like, I want to talk about one thing, which is the workflow. What is the workflow? The workflow is the series of tasks and scripts that you would like to run before your patching starts. Maybe you want to check certain services, stop certain services, and so forth, as well as the series of tasks and scripts that you would like to run afterwards. Maybe you want to start certain services. Maybe you want to reboot if necessary. Whatever makes sense for your environment and for your groups of machines, you can create a workflow like that. As I mentioned, they're created by a series of tasks and scripts. We provide you a series of built-in ones here that you can leverage on your endpoints. But of course, you can bring your own. So if I go ahead and create a task here, I can say, is the task based off of a script, based off of a command line, or maybe it's a combination of a script with a command line executable. I can do, for example, things like batch and PowerShell on the Windows side. I can do some shell, Python, Perl, so forth on the Linux Unix side. And in addition to that, you can even upload binaries if that is appropriate for your workflows. In addition to being able to run tasks and scripts as part of the workflow, you can also do that independent of any remediation and run it anytime you like. And I'll also show you that in just a bit. Before I do so, I want to show you that ITSM integration. Let me go ahead and open up ServiceNow. And you can see here that I have the request to approve the plan I created up here at the top. And it's pulling in different information, telling me what the plan is, what's the approval process. And in this particular instance, this ServiceNow workflow automatically goes through an approvers process. And it's basically already gone through that process. And now it has told JetPatch, this is approved and ready to go. Of course, if this was rejected, it would tell JetPatch it's rejected, and then it would move the plan back into new as a rejected state. This integration is customizable, and that's true regardless if it's ServiceNow, Jira, Symphony Summit, so on and so forth. These integrations are all possible because we have a very robust REST API. So if you would like to change any of the data, read, write any of the data, that's all possible with our API, REST API integrations. So going back here, while you're looking at these different plans, you have different points of compliance, real-time compliance and visibility. The summary view, but I also can kind of drill down into what we call the compliance report. This kind of tells you what the plan's all about, what it's going to do, tells you when that plan's going to happen, so on and so forth. In addition to that, I also have a RealTime Activities table. If I view here, I have the plan filtered on, and I can see some information of what has happened with this plan. As you can see here, it provides me a start and end time, and I can see that it's already remediated appropriately. I get full details of what happened, and I can download it appropriately. If I go back into my remediation plan section here, I can see that it's moved in progress as expected. In the next minute or so, it will go ahead and update all that information and tell me that my plan is complete. Now, as mentioned earlier, you are able to run tasks and scripts independent of a workflow. In order to do that, go ahead to Endpoints Management. You can select various endpoints here. So for example, I'll select these endpoints and I can run a task either in the moment or I can schedule it for a later time. So I can go ahead and run this task. And leveraging the same activities table as before, I can actually go ahead and see the results of that. So if I go back here under activities, you can see that I have all these tasks ran in the last few seconds, all successfully. Again, I can view those details. And if I go back to the plan that we were just looking at, I can see that the plan continued to the post workflow, which went ahead and rebooted the machines. And if I go back into the remediation plan section, it's updated. And then next minute or so, it's going to verify that everything's complete and move it appropriately. Now, I did mention the compliance and custom compliance before. To quickly show you that, under system compliance, you can go ahead and add those compliance rules. In addition to that, as mentioned before about maintenance schedules, you can easily create your maintenance schedules here and then assign them appropriately at a group level or at an individual endpoint level. And with that, I hope you enjoyed this demo. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us, and a member of our team will be glad to assist you. Thank you and have a great day.